We are looking at biblical references this week that show God as our refuge, our fortress, or perhaps the deliverer of his people from difficult and even terrifying circumstances. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. We know that God has promised to be our fortress, our defender, even our deliverer when it is his will to do so, and show his power over the forces of this world around us. One of my favorite narratives about God's power and his deliverance actually happened in a foreign country where God's people were being held captive and even enslaved. Nebuchadnezzar was a great and mighty king of the Babylonians, known to be one of the greatest in his day. And he was seeking world domination. All that went along with that, and these things seemed to go to his head. So he wanted to demand worship of the people. He fashioned this golden image, a giant statue, some 90 feet high, set it out in the middle of the plain, and he commanded that everyone in the kingdom would bow down to it whenever they heard this music play. But Daniel tells us there were 3 faithful followers of God that were commanded to bow, but they would not. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood firm in their faith, even whenever they were brought before the king. So he gave them a second chance to bow down. They would be thrown into a fiery furnace if they didn't bow this time. They even heated the furnace up to 7 times hotter than its normal temperature. And when Nebuchadnezzar prepared to play the music as a signal of a command to worship, these 3 men spoke up. And they gave their astounding testimony of faithfulness to the God of Israel. They said in Daniel chapter 3 and verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. And he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up." I particularly love the "if not" clause in that testimony. What if God does not choose to deliver us from whatever we dread the most in this life? Will we lose heart? Will we falter in our faith, believing that he really cannot deliver us? It really doesn't matter what God chooses to do in my life. You know, they said, "I'm still going to worship him." So the proud king, in his anger, demanded that they be thrown into the furnace that was so hot that even his captains that threw them into the furnace were burned alive, casting them in, and they died. But Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. And he actually said, "Didn't we cast in 3? But I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt." You see, God chose to deliver them with his presence. He actually showed up to go with them. They had been bound. Now all their ropes and their garments were cut loose, and they were walking around in the fire. When the 3 were called out of the furnace, they weren't even singed. Their hair was not singed. The Bible says they didn't even smell like smoke. A lot of places you go to nowadays, you can't get by with that. But when God chooses to deliver us, he makes it a notable occasion to see his power, especially over men like this earthly king. This once proud king actually said there in Daniel chapter 3, "Blessed be your God who has delivered his servants from the burning fiery furnace." He even made a decree for his people that no one should speak evil of the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, lest they be cut into pieces. And finally, even a pagan king proclaimed, "There is no other God who can deliver like this." I believe that, don't you? There is no other God. His deliverance is miraculous and powerful and always available if we call upon him.